when researching this ship is the fact that it's armed with disruptors rather than the classic Federation phasers. We can see what looks like two phaser strips on the hull, however. Are those actually disruptor strips? What was your take on the armament of this ship? And we can't see any torpedo tubes, but you think they were equipped with maybe temporal torpedoes, so you can deliver someone's great-great-grandfather a butt kicking at the same time, but in the distant past.
What?
That's incredible.
I don't remember the script, but if they mentioned disruptors, in dialogue, well, that's, okay, disruptor, phaser, I don't know. Just from a building block standpoint, yes, I put things that look like phasers, just to remind people, okay, this is Starfleet.
Yeah.
There was, I think, just like on the Aeon, there was a temporal little blaster coming out the nose.
Yeah, that's where the main disruptor is meant to be.
And if you want to, talk about where a torpedo could come from, it could be just like a door on a contemporary submarine that is flush with the outside. It opens, torpedo comes out.
Is that an official Rick ruling?
Yeah, sure.
It's got 4 tubes. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
And phase-ruptors. They're a mix between phasers and disruptors.
Phase-ruptors, yeah.
That's actually pretty good. But do you think at the 20th century we've moved so far beyond photon and quantum that it's going to be something, ludicrous?
Oh, well, it could be something completely brand new. If we didn't see it, if we didn't hear it, it's.
But what does your gut say, Rick? What does your
gut say? It's a brand new torpedo nobody's ever seen.
Okay, there we go.
It just materializes outside the ship. Doesn't need a tube.
Yeah. Okay, I'll buy that.
I mean, Asgard beaming technology, just beam it right in. I mean, temporal beaming, why not beam? Yeah, I mean, that's one of the time ship. It can do everything. Why do you need torpedoes? So any ship from the 20th century would surely be able to far outmatch anything from contemporary Trek. But I wanted to ask about the ship's shields, and in fact a theory I have, we'll get onto that in a minute. So if you can imagine time as a linear start-end, at least for the first time around, as it were, of time, then when the Relativity was launched, she must have been equipped with some kind of temporal shielding, similar to what we saw Voyager use in Year of Hell, which allowed it to be completely protected from any changes in time. So first, what are your thoughts on how Relativity operates in terms of shielding? Is it temporal shielding, you think, or am I thinking to 24th century, to 8 brain? I mean, is it beyond that?
It could be. I mean, the time cops certainly didn't want, Voyager era people to know, much of anything. So I'm sure that they were keeping a lot of their technologies under their hat. And if you could generate some kind of a weird field that stopped events from happening or slowed them down or reversed them, it's again, it's science fiction. If you come up with a cool idea, you can probably spend a few minutes rationalizing it and working out all the mechanics of it. I think the temporally equipped ships, they probably have a number of things that 400 or 500 years behind, we just don't understand them.
Although, again, that said, Voyager did have, in Year of Hell, temporal shielding, which did the job. I mean, that implies that either...
how long did they have that for? We never saw it again.
But, well, that's because the timeline got erased and all that jazz. But the Krenim time ship had the same shielding. They were completely impervious from any changes in time. So the technology is at least doable with 24th century equipment. So you'd think it would be the most basic, bog standard tech. And that leads into part 2 of my theory. So when the Relativity was launched, she must have been impervious to any changes in the timeline. Because, well, and as such, Relativity at any time ship launch would be, in essence, a static force in all of space and time, and must therefore be from the first go around, time A to Z and 1 to 10, and then it was launched. Because if it could be affected by anything happening in time, it'd be a useless time ship, wouldn't it? You know, one thing happens, Federation gets wiped out, boom, doesn't exist anymore. So what are your thoughts on its static nature in time, and it may be from the very first timeline? As we say, it can't be affected. And of course, you know, they would go back and fix major things, but you can still step on a butterfly and if someone's not born and it's a small change, but in the 20th century it might have been a huge change. So what are your thoughts on its out-of-time nature?
See, this is where my brain starts to bleed. Okay.
I've thought about this. It's
you know, the temporal core, you know, those guys, okay, they were charged with fixing things.
Mhm.
Okay, so they would, oh God, this is way too damn complicated. They would have to somehow detect something unusual happening,
Mhm.
and then go back and fix it. There are various. You guys are making me nuts. There would be various time streams or threads or whatever. Okay, remember in the Krenim ship, we had that huge diagram of all of those, you know, all that spaghetti. And you know, which one is the right one? You know, you can't, you know, I mean, if you have a set of time streams where, you know, in 7 out of 8 of them a bad war happens, okay, you sort of want to go to the one where it doesn't.
Shouldn't you have said 7 of 9 of them? So there's
7 of 9, right? Right. So yeah, you know, we never really got into, you know, what the temporal guys were really doing. You know, if they were that good at their job, why didn't they fix everything going back to the 23rd century?
Miranda.
Second century.
JJ verse.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, I think you've got to then take that with a pinch of salt, because, like I said,
Of course.
the relativity, you know, is from the future where everything's already happened, and they are then becoming a static ball in time. So they know events, so they are changing if something changes, but they know when something was meant to have happened to change it. So they know if Keela was meant to die because she was always meant to die by time travel. So they would know what was meant to happen even if it involved time travel. So they were just there to fix the things that were not meant to happen even through time travel.
Yeah.
As James says, the temporal mechanics just.
Yeah, this is crazy.
Thank you for the lesson in temporal mechanics, Rick. Thank you.
All right. Now, in regards to those temporal transporters we talked about earlier, I read that they could only actually accurately pinpoint precise transport coordinates, but only within 5 centuries distance timeline-wise.
Rubbish.
While you probably did not have the chance to work the many ins and outs of the Relativity's time tech, what are your thoughts on her specialist transporters? Could they travel back in time millions of years, or were they only limited to a measly 5 centuries? Let's set the record straight on the temporal transporters here today, Rick.
If that's what the script writers said, that's what it is.
But that raises the question: if it's only 500 years, can they travel the ship anywhere and still have access to any time?
Well, yeah, you'd assume
within
that
5 centuries.
Be a jumping stones, wouldn't it, in a pond? You'd be just bridging the gap.
Poor Rick. He's like, this has nothing to do with designing this ship.
That's right. That's right.
But that was a big part of the episode. That was the side premise was that they beamed in and out of time and whatnot.
If the ship, you know, I guess if you think of the ship as doing the major time jumps, okay, maybe a temporal transporter is doing like the smaller jumps from the big jumps. So, you know, maybe you could send a crewman to whenever you want. You know, it's just that maybe the transporters are just a little less capable than an entire ship.
Yeah, or to the point where it's like a curve. They get less and less precise to the point where if you push the limits of it, you end up being, you know, days out. And obviously, if you're trying to stop an event, that's pretty useless. So one thing that's always stood out to me about the design was its very unique sheen. Gone is the grey painting or Aztecing, and the Relativity is a very organic, sleek body with almost organic looking hull colour with shades of purple, blues and greens. Is that...
it almost looks like a beetle shell.
Yeah. Is that just a special sort of hull plating or armor to help withstand the temporal stresses of time travel, or is this the ship's outer layer possibly organic in nature, grown, or something in between? What did you envision?
I don't know, 4D printing.
Whoa.
Makes sense. It's a time ship, right?
A lot of this, of course, is what is up to the visual effects producers and the CG modelers. I had no real notes on my drawings about hull coatings. But I think that there's a bit of a carbon fiber vibe going on in there. If Brandon McDougall was the guy who actually built the CG model, I think that's an absolutely fine result that they got. It's different from Voyager. It's different from
everything.
Everything. But again, some of the little stylistic bits, including the insignia, will tell you, okay, something, some little bits of Starfleet still remain that we can recognize.
Yeah. Do you think it might be an organic-y hull, though? Have we pushed that point, do you think? Because it is a very odd, unique-looking shell.
I suspect that you could probably build a hull like that in the 29th century. Instead of gamma welding titanium plates together, you would use, almost like 3D printing today, you would have micro transport for, hull material molecules. Just print this thing in the hull layers that it needs, to deal with temporal turbulence stresses and all that kind of thing. Back in the TNG Tech manual, we wrote about what we call forced matrix fabrication, where you jam molecules and atoms together that don't really like to go together, but you force them into a much stronger bonded material.
That's cool.
And a lot of this comes from stuff that we're reading about today, with things like carbon fiber epoxy and materials that are blasted, atoms at a time to get these layers. So why not develop the same sort of thing for a 29th century ship like Relativity, where yes, you have to compute the hull surface to be able to whip through the continuum.
Yeah, it's specifically said it's been built. The design is built to withstand temporal travel.
Right, and then it's just like with the aerodynamic surfaces today. You have wing sections that are they are the shape that they are because of physics. Okay, 29th century physics, 29th century continuum busting physics.
Rick, you were so far ahead, weren't you? Wow, you
blast these atoms together, and you get the surface you get.
One thing that actually just occurred to me, if this goes back to you talking about the temporal impeller, if it allows you to travel at any point in space or time, do you think that would be close to the definition of warp 10, which basically you're everywhere all at once? If you could reach anywhere in a moment, could that be considered warp 10 speed? Do you think this is the first true warp 10 ship because it can travel through time? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a little sense. If the Relativity fires up its engines and they hit engage, they initially exist everywhere, or they exist in one spot, but they have instantaneous access to anywhere. Okay, so I would tend to think that it's the latter, where the ship is sitting in some kind of a temporal bubble, but it can access any vector. Go off here, go off there. I I don't subscribe to the notion really that the relativity could exist within the entire universe all at once.
Yeah, it's a little bit far-fetched.
Because that's a little crazy. But if it is suddenly separated from the observable universe, but it can then establish a vector from where it is to any point in space or time, and maybe it even has limits on when it can go.
So there are a couple of features that actually move away from the Starfleet normal design style, or at least 24th century and before. Its lack of escape pods, and the highly visible temporal warp core right at the top of the ship, and the bridge, which in fact has 3 windows, making it more vulnerable, I suppose. Do you want to talk us through these specific 3 design choices?
Well, escape pods, escape pods would probably be, very, very useful when you're in normal space. Okay, I probably wouldn't jump into one and eject, while making a jump. Who knows where who knows when you would end up or where.
And depending on when you launch these things, maybe they have a homing beacon, they go right back to the 29th century, because otherwise you'd be stranded.
Well, we'll see that with 31st century technology.
I don't know. That would be a pretty powerful escape pod engine.
It would be.
But
I don't know.
It could only need one feature, though. I mean, you don't need life support for a few minutes then, wouldn't you? Just that the whole thing is just a big temporal.
Well, if you in some science fiction stories, if you travel through time, you continue to be connected to your start point by this temporal rubber band. Okay. And you're constantly pulling against it, and then whack, you can snap back. Okay. Yeah, you want to talk to a quantum physicist about stuff like that. Yeah. I'm sure you could work out, a very cool scenario where, yes, you would snap back. Maybe there is a temporal sustainer core in the escape pod that is constantly, spinning. Who knows?
You do think of this stuff. You have the greatest ideas. We love hearing it.
But it still seems like a huge energy expenditure.
Yeah.
To do that.
So are you saying then that even though there's no visible escape pods, there are escape pods, but because the hull needs to be its sleek surface to successfully travel in time, that they're just hidden?
Same reason there's no torpedo tubes.
Yeah.
They show up when they need to.
Again, well, I mean, look at the Defiant. The Defiant had escape pods under the hull plating, which blew away, and suddenly the escape pods were exposed. Okay, I could see that happening on the Relativity also. In aerospace, there are lots of different places where you would see breakable surfaces. Look at the canopy on a jet aircraft. Okay, those things are built to break if they need to. Okay, if you need to eject and your canopy doesn't go, you get to go straight through it. I can see the escape pods, which I'm pretty sure I drew in my original sketch. Those could be underneath breakable hull panels. Okay.
Or even just phase through the hull.
Oh, sure. Okay.
I mean, it's 29th century. Let's go beyond. Let's go beyond hatches. I mean, why not? And then back to, so we know that this section is the temporal warp core, but it's visible. Right. So I assume then that in your design it was just a bright light, and then they made that connection. It's just like,
you put something with a bright light and it says energy. So
my rationale behind why there's so many, like, again, the bridge, I mean, it's just a big canopy almost with windows, is that there's no one that can take on the ship, so why need to hide it?
Okay, yeah, sure.
And while talking about the life pods and escape pods, how many crew did you see being aboard the Relativity? If it's about the size of a Nova class, so they had a crew of 80. What are your thoughts on the crew, and how many would a time ship need, do you think?
I mean, a ship like that, maybe you could get away with 30 or 40.
Yeah.
Depending on how sophisticated the systems are.
And since they got temporal transporters, why not just beam people in and out? I mean, it's
as needed.
It's like an aircraft carrier almost. Okay, so Rick, one last thing. So, and it should be something you're used to from us by now. But if you had to pick your favourite thing about the design and your least favourite thing, what would they be? And if you could change anything in retrospect, what would that be?
The most favorite thing about Relativity,
Yeah,
I think, would be the general hull outline, the general shape of it.
it's pretty sexy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Pointy.
You know, it's got aerodynamic looking things. It's pointy. It looks fast. And I think that's one of the things I like best. That's one of the first things that comes out of my doodle pen. Is a basic shape, and then I'll add all the details later. You want to know my least favorite thing about
You had to pick
Relativity?
something. Yeah.
The fact that we asked him all these damn questions—that's his least favorite thing.
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't have drawn it if I didn't like it. Yeah, I don't think I would have done anything differently. I mean, I like it. It's a cool little ship, and there you go.
Great way to end off. Well, thank you
Perfect.
very much, Rick, and we hope you've sort of enjoyed talking to us and talk about this great ship. We both love it, and hope you guys enjoyed Rick's extra insights. So, on to the discussion, guys.
All right, see you later, Rick.
All right, take it easy.
Well, that was awesome. I love hearing from the designers and having them speculate with us on all the little details. And
Even if we push them a bit beyond where they necessarily thought
Yeah.
in the
There was-
90s or now.
yeah, there's a lot of stuff that was never really thought up, and we tend to push that boundary with them, and they're kind of hesitant at times, but it's fun to speculate.
And this is our chance to talk to the man that designed it. And come on, as fans, if we thought about it, there's going to be other fans that had these questions. We wanted to get those answers. And even if they're not as solid as they could be, it gets our minds working, it gets your minds working, and maybe it'll be canon someday. But a lot of fun and a lot of information, more than we thought we'd get out of that. But we had a lot of questions, and we had to look at the real 3D model and everything. It really, that was fun. But anyway, on to the discussion, I think.
Yeah. Now we've heard Rick's, most and least favorite things about the design, and as always, it's our turn now. I gotta say, I love this ship. Definitely one of my all-time favorite Starfleet designs. The new aesthetic is very nice to look at, and it's such a streamlined and sexy-looking ship. One might almost say that it's radical. It's rad, man. The spearhead design is usually seen in most of Rick Sternbach's designs, and this is like the crowning achievement of that style. Plus, all of the cool tech, temporal transporters, temporal communications, and the new T-cars all make this a fantastic ship design.
I love
The T-cars are cool, man.
And they're the great art design. I love seeing that in the episode. I mean, how do you keep evolving the future? And they kept doing it. Amazing guys at Star Trek team. Anyway, I've always liked the design, and despite its single appearance, and actually going back, it's a few seconds of CG. The exterior, there's almost nothing. I mean, I've made more than it was ever seen on the screen on renders. It's a fascinating look at the most advanced Starfleet ship we will ever or have ever got to see. And as someone who loves ships, and Federation design in particular, it was a real treat to get to see her back in the 90s. And to go with the design, I love the new L-cars, T-cars, the uniforms, the tricorder, and the comm badge. It all just worked really well for me, and just in general for the ship. I was so excited when Eagle Moss announced they're doing their model, and when I got it, just fantastic. And I'll be able to work with the original CG model, do for my animations. It's been a lot of fun working with it, and just learning even more with Rick. This is what Trekyards about. It's been so much fun for this ship. One I've always been fascinated about. Yeah, we've been able to address things that I've considered and fans can consider, and I've actually had it straight from the designer himself. So what a cool job we have.
Absolutely. Now, what I don't like is actually the absence of nacelles as we know them. While this new look is fantastic, I kind of miss the blue and red glowing aspects of the nacelles. I think incorporating those into this design would have made it perfect, in my honest opinion. I mean, there is a sort of blue glow at the front of the wings, but I think incorporating a longer blue glow along the side of the ship would be awesome.
And we know Rick said that he included at the aft those glowing elements to sort of link into the warp engines, but yeah.
And something else that slightly bugs me is the improper credit for the Einstein quote on the dedication plaque, which we talked about earlier.
Which is funny because it's something you don't really, people won't necessarily notice just from the episode itself. It's only from extra research. The
Trekyards, we dig deep, so you don't have to. Don't know if that was a mistake or actually done intentionally. Maybe they went back in time and discovered that originally Einstein didn't say it, but instead heard someone else say it
I was about to make
and
that
then used
joke.
it later in his life.
I was about to make that joke, because we don't read these bits that we say to each other, so it gives a bit of a fresh opinion, and I didn't know you were going to say that. That's
Yeah, well, I'm
great
awesome,
minds.
so there you go. Exactly, and fools seldom differ, right? In that case, I think it would be a funny little Easter egg. In that one case, I kind of approve of that alteration in that there should be in one of the stories that actually
Bonus
someone else
canon.
said it,
Yeah.
and then Einstein stole it. I think that'd be funny. So they set the record straight.
Yeah, and for me, I think I can agree with adding some of the blue and red of the nacelles back, just to add a bit more of that Starfleet aesthetic, maybe on the corners maybe on the contours of the wings, but then again, it's not got the conventional warp drive or warp engines or nacelles.
True.
So it doesn't necessarily make sense to have them, and I like being able to push that forward. I think my biggest problem with the ship, though, is if you took away some small details like the phaser strip, the distinct lights, the Starfleet pennon, it wouldn't necessarily feel Star Trek. And if you change the colour scheme, maybe. Change the paint scheme, and you could probably put this into Babylon 5 and you wouldn't really think too much of it. But that said, if it looked too similar, that'd be too silly, because it's so far in the future. And I still buy it's a Federation ship or a Starfleet ship, especially given what Rick has said. There isn't much I don't like. That was sort of reaching. But it's a great design. I can definitely see it being the 29th century. And I would love to see a 29th century series with her. I think you do so much with it. CBS got on it, and you've already got the design right there.
Exactly. They could go into any of the eras. I mean, that would be amazing.
And
Great idea for a show.
Trekyards, those extra details, they can know even more about the ship than was even developed in the 90s.
Exactly. Alrighty, guys, that was a fantastic episode. Definitely one of my favorites. It was a nice temporary distraction from your day, I bet. I do have a question for you guys, though. Well, at least all the ones that participate in the drinking game aspect of the show anyways. How are you feeling right now? I may go watch this and try it myself, but I do know that I typed temporal a lot during the course of writing this episode.
Temporal. Keep drinking.
Ooh, that's evil. Don't do that.
Yep, sorry.
Plus all the times Rick, or we said it during the discussion part of the show, which I couldn't account for. Anyways, hope you don't regret participating. You may have to rewatch it, though, to remember everything. But that's what Trekyards.com is for, as you can watch all of our past episodes there, or by searching Trekyards on YouTube. If you want to help us create future episodes, see what I did there? Future episodes.
Bad jokes, another drinking game. Yep.
Oh, bad joke drinking game for Trekyards? No, that'd be evil. Anyway, if you want to help us with future episodes, please visit our Patreon page and donate, or click the big donate button over on our website. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. And we will see you all next time. So until next time, this is Captain Foley.
And Commander Cookins.
Signing off until next time. We will see you all in the future. Temporal.
Bye, guys.
Temporal.